think we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I want to just take a moment and introduce to you our panelists. Rick Moore, to your right, is with the Advanced Solutions team, Steelcase North America. He's a workplace consultant as part of the Advanced Solutions team for Steelcase Incorporated, global leader in the office furniture industry, providing products, services, and insights into ways people work, including products for architecture, furniture, and technology. Appointed to his current position in October 2012, Rick is responsible for engaging strategically with large organizations in North America around issues specific to people, space, technology, and brand. He's based in Fort Collins, Colorado. He joined Steelcase in 1979, almost as long as I've been here. Go for it, Bill. 8093. Working in a variety of positions, including manufacturing, design, and dealer services, contracts, marketing, and sales. Next on your right is Phil Ouellette. Phil is currently president and COO of Lindsay, Stone & Briggs. He joined the agency as CFO in 2000, became a partner in 2005, and has been in his current role since 2011. His background is mostly in finance and operations, having worked at Honeywell for 6 years in 4 different business units, as well as other companies in hospitality, manufacturing, government contracting, specialty retail, and professional services. Phil has a BA in history and a master's in finance. To Phil's right is Julie Herfel. She is an executive producer with 31 years of experience in managing projects and creating integrated content for an ever-expanding media landscape. I love the advertising flair here. Did you write that?
It's true, though. You don't know how many landscapes I've seen in media in 31 years.
Julie considers herself a happy client maker and is passionate about creating work that makes everyone look good. Julie's also on the board of directors for Oprah Gardens and is thrilled to be working on the development and marketing for the gardens. She's proud to have been a part of the team that created their office space. She says our office space helps us be more of who LSB as a group is, as a group of special people who are always searching and collaborating to create communications and solving our clients' business problems artfully. Next is Mark Joslin, superstar, who rearranged his schedule to be here today. Thank you so much.
I noticed Mark is a special chief.
He does, and I did that on purpose. Shamelessly.
Looks like a Star Trek chair.
He is Captain Kirk of the crowd. Yeah. Vice President of HR, IT, and Facilities at Trek since 2004. Lives in Middleton, Wisconsin with his wife and 3 children. Has a BA from Denison University and an MBA from Northwestern Kellogg, and must say has the entire history of the project that we'll be talking about in his head. So he brings a great deal of information and great history about Trek to you all today. And finally, Margot Stutz. Margot is project manager in human resources who oversees a variety of programs, including the Mansion Hill Inn. I bet you didn't know that Trek owned that. A boutique hotel in Madison, the corporate travel program, and facilities projects. She just celebrated 5 years with Trek on Monday, so congratulations. I just wanted to take a minute too and just talk about why they're here today. Each of them had different business drivers, but had a similar approach to change. One is they embraced it, and they understood that by transforming their furnishings and environment, they could facilitate change required to the business and or catch up to change that was already in place. I have to say these 2 projects were watershed moments for us in terms of the fact that it challenged us, as we were at the time, to apply our furniture as a tool to leverage their business needs. And the overlying theme here today is that space matters, and in this case, as it relates to change. So we appreciate our forward-thinking guests for being here today and sharing their stories. Just to let you know, as far as Trek, it was really for us learning about how to be flexible, and we have some other players in the room who can attest to that from the project team. They pushed us to really help them find solutions to their need for flexibility. With Lindsay Stone and Briggs, it was real estate and its impact on the organization to maximize and really do more with less and ask the question, what do you really need? So both of these organizations and their entire project team, which consisted of architects, developers, real estate professionals, contractors, challenged us to dig deeper into the right solution. We learned a great deal, and we thought this was worth talking about and sharing with you all today. So I encourage you to ask questions. We have topics we want to cover. Vicki is going to be our facilitator. She's our Director of Talent Development. So she's got a list of topics, but if we want to take a detour, we certainly can to whatever you'd like to get into. So with that, I'll let Vicki take it away.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
That's true. I like to take side trips, so Debbie might hook us, but feel free, and that goes with all of you too. And I met with Rick earlier today from Steelcase, and I encouraged him, if the topic is interesting, let's just go there. We don't need to stay on script. So last night to prepare, of course, you know, as anyone would, I went online to see what I could see about change management, and I found 3 things I wanted to share with you. First of all, change management has been around for half a century. I found that an interesting kind of geek little note. Secondly, there are 83,000 books on change management on Amazon, which is a kind of a freaky statistic. And lastly, 60 to 70% of change initiatives fail. So what that said to me is there's a lot of interest in change, and there's a lot of things that aren't working. And so, as Debbie said, can furniture matter? Can space matter? That's why we're here today, to talk with some folks who had some very good experiences and can share those with us. So let's lead it off. It's not about me talking, it's about facilitation. Rick, can you tell us, maybe, let's talk about some business trends that have facilitated change happening throughout the built environment. 3 to 5 business trends that are making change happen. Okay.
By the way, 5 years ago, I think change management, I think it was called strategy. Things do change. So, a little background. I had 36 years with Steelcase, 16th job with Steelcase. So I'm a baby boomer, but I've had a Gen Y career. I just didn't have to leave Steelcase to get it. Got a new job every couple of years. I work with clients somewhere in North America almost every day. And I would say that over the past 2 years, these topics do change a bit. Real estate compression has been hot. Continues to be a real pressure, if you will. I'm thinking back 2009 and 10, Cisco and Ford got idled or got rid of 11 million square feet. Just those 2 companies. Wow. I'm thinking, well, what were the other 48 of the top 50 in, say, North America, which is an interesting thing to think about. Now, some were growing. Google is an account of mine, and they hire 100 people every week. So you look at their interiors, it doesn't look like there's a standard. There is a standard. Because they couldn't survive without governance on a real hard level. Facebook hires 75 every week. So space compression, and the enlightenment I think happens around space compression is that it starts out kind of as an alternative workplace strategy, and when they get enlightened, it becomes the best place strategy. And that would be my terms, not theirs necessarily, but it's a really interesting moment when they realize that space actually can be better, but different. Next topic that's really hot right now is this really unique tension between collaboration and privacy. 5 years ago, it was all about collaboration. There's no place to meet. Our collaboration spaces all look the same. It's a conference room for 12 to 15 people, and 3 to 5 are meeting in it all day long, and the technology in every room is different, and there's no place to meet. And that's more, in mathematics is known as momentum theory. It's swinging back now. And so what's the opposite tension to collaboration? Well, it's privacy. I meet with people all day long, so when do I get my work done? And where do I get my work done? I'd say a third one is boomers retiring, and Gen Y, and guess what? Gen Z are coming. And we're not even looking at them yet. They'll make up about 5 to 6% of the workforce by 2020. They're a little different than Y. Not like a Y to a boomer, but they're a little different. You need to understand that. So. Talent management. Companies talk about succession planning. I think it's talent management. I think succession is a piece of a broader puzzle. I would say globalization and outsourcing is probably another big bucket. A lot of companies don't aren't global or don't think they're global, and the reality is they probably are competing with somebody that is, so how do you deal with that? And I think probably the fifth one, and then I will stop, is technology and how that continues to drive for us to be able to work in a variety of ways that we just didn't imagine a couple of years ago. You know, and that's really fascinating to me to think about what the possibility might be there. It doesn't make them good or bad, it just makes them different. You know, whatever it is that's going to drive for those changes.
And from a Steelcase perspective, can you talk about some key issues of product design and things you're building in to mesh with those trends?
How about yes and no?
That's a good answer. Give us some yeses.
I'll give you a research project. We're working with MIT Media Labs on things that think right now. And they're doing an assessment of our entire manufacturing enterprise. And I don't know how this will manifest itself. I just know the headline, that by 2020, it is our aspiration that everything we make will have technology built into it somehow. I don't know what that means yet.
Okay. Fair enough.
I can guess.
Fair enough.
Kind of along the lines of the Internet of Things.
I think IoT is a part of it. Yeah, but you know, when you embed technology into something, the intelligence has to be in such a way that it's not, in my opinion, at this point, battery. Replace, 10,000 batteries a year in your furniture inventory? I don't think so. So there has to be another way to wand that data and have that connection be a reality. I'm not sure what it is. That's why we're talking MIT.
Well, let's start with Lindsay Stone at Briggs, and I hope you can do a couple of things with this first question. One is just, we've got some photos of your newish space. Could you just kind of give us paint a picture of what your existing space had been, so the audience knows what you transitioned from before you moved?
Our old space.
Yes. 100
State.
State.
We were on 2 floors, which we didn't like at all. That's one of the reasons we moved. And we all pretty much had private offices. And I mean, we had one conference room that we could all pretty much fit into. We had small kitchen on each floor that you could not eat in. So everybody was eating lunch at their desks, which is a problem right there. And we have a saying that said, get off your Herman, because we all had Herman Miller Aeron chairs. Because nobody was coming out of their office to talk to each other. I think that could sum it up.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
We were having fun, and it was a creative space for its day.
Right.
We had a sparkly, twinkly lights in the hallway, and certain people had bigger offices because of their status. That's also a problem for me. So yeah, that's what it was like.
I mean, just to provide a little more context, it was like an 1888 building, so it's a flat iron structure. It used to be a bank. My office was the interior of a vault. So trying to get wireless connections in there was virtually impossible. Not that we had any of those back then. But it was, all the offices were on the exterior, the interior was dark for the most part.
Very dark.
Yeah,
and we had double hung windows and the offices.
And the fact that we were on 2 floors, serviced by a really slow moving elevator or a fire escape that was key locked, meant we had 2 separate cultures going on. And it sounds kind of crazy for a company of 40 people, but it was reality. I mean, there was a 3rd floor, 4th floor culture.
Well, the creative department was on one floor, and most of the account people were on the other floor, so that's a problem.
And there's a natural tension between those 2 groups anyway.
So how's that going to help? Probably not.
So Rick mentioned real estate compression, and LSB saved a phenomenal amount of real estate moving to the U.S. Bank building. Can you talk about, was that a goal that you started out with? Was it a driver? Was it something that came about as you began to look at your needed change?
I think I was probably more of the mindset that I think a lot of people go into, which is what's my cost per foot, right? And having a finance background and being a numbers person.
He's crunching the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, that was that's the first place it goes, how do I save cost? And I think it was really working with you and working with our tenant broker, Brian. They both kind of, I think, changed my concept and ultimately all our concepts about using real estate as a way to make money as opposed to seeing it as a cost line item to save money. And that was, for me, that was just kind of the big 180 click through. And I just, from the point in time I kind of accepted that, it just changed my entire outlook and how to view it. Which is, let's create space that's going to make us money, make our work better, get more clients, make us famous, have happy employees, be a recruiting tool as opposed to, you know, trying to keep people uplifted all the time because it was a dark, dank, you know, kind of isolated sort of environment. And so for me, that was the big shift. I was just thinking about using real estate as a way to make money.
That's a great way to say it.
And I guess I just want to say, you know, where Phil is using words like dark and dank. People weren't, you know, that unhappy there. I mean, and they didn't know it was that way until we went to the new space. In fact, they didn't want to go to the new space at all. Like, it was like, are you kidding me, Julie? This is not going to work. So we had to do a lot of convincing. But once they got there, it was like, the curtain went up and they were like applauding, like, oh my God, you were right. So they didn't know it at the time.
Did you buy in early, Julie, on the whole idea of downsizing square footage, though?
Yeah, I mean, we had so many corners where there was paper and things that should have been, you know, storage of stuff that should have been gotten rid of a long time ago. It's just baggage that you don't need to carry, and that was a whole nother thing, saying to everyone, you're gonna have one file cabinet, that's it. You gotta get rid of all the stuff. I mean, it's a digital age, we're going to have a network, everything's gonna be stored. You know, you're working on 2 screens, there's all these tools you're gonna have that you don't have to have paper. I mean, Marshall Lindsay, you know, who's the founder and CEO of our company, was about a paperless society a long, long time ago before this even happened. And when we did a prior renovation, she wanted it to have all open space, but our employees like kind of revolted against it. And so we already were attuned to the concept in a big way. In fact, we had talked about hoteling and, you know, like Chiat Day, you know, way back when. You came into the office and you had your computer and you didn't know where you were going to sit. I mean, so we were talking about those concepts, you know, long before this. This time we knew we were going to do it, and we weren't going to listen to anybody because we knew it was the right thing. So there was a core group of us who had bought into it, and we were going to make this happen.
Rick, anything else on to add on space utilization?
Yeah, I think what's really intriguing when you make a shift like this is you're starting to use, when you think in terms of efficiency versus just versus effectiveness, the metrics change, because the metrics on the traditional real estate side of the equation are pretty obvious. It's, you know, the cost, and so that's why there's so much focus, and rightfully so, on that, because at some point you've got to still write a check, you still have to, right? The other side is a bit of the holy grail, which is if you can measure those softer issues in an effective way about engagement, retention, talent management, light. Those are all measurable too, but they end up being viewed as softer or a little bit more subjective. You know what? You have to get your arms around that too, because I know a number of companies I'm working with right now where they will not recruit on site because that young man or woman, if they see the place, will not work there.
Well, that's a great segue over to Trek. Because I want to talk to Mark and Margot about recruitment and retention. So Trek's known as a very creative company, so you have some unique specific requirements when you're recruiting people. Can you talk, Mark, a little bit before we talk about how you recruit, about what your environment was like at the time that you made a big shift with Oliver and put that first edition on, and paint a picture for the audience?
How many people have been to Waterloo, Wisconsin?
I grew up there.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the first part of the answer to this equation.
Sure.
So Waterloo was chosen because the founders of Trek in 1976 had 2 criteria. One lived in Milwaukee, one lived in Madison. So they said they wanted it to be between the 2, and it had to be dirt cheap. So Trek started in a former carpet warehouse in 1976, 5 employees. And then they bought some land, farmland, in around 1981 and built the first phase of what we live in today. So that theme of dirt cheap continued right on through the 80s. And so really you have to imagine it's an 80s office building, very little natural light, low suspended ceilings, fluorescent lights, really high cubicles. It was awful. It was a sea of gray. It was,
Need a
really
miner's
awful.
helmet to.
Yeah, it's really remarkable, I guess. We don't have any before pictures. I know.
Well, they were too bad to show.
But I think the easy way to tie these together is that we realized we had a great opportunity in 2004 to double our space and really bring in all the latest and greatest ideas at that time. So we spent a lot of time benchmarking. We went to other brands that we admired. We were very lucky to find Bud. Where's Bud?
That's right there.
Right there, okay. So,
He's an
our
architect.
education began, right, with that partnership. So we chose a construction company that brought their own architect, and thankfully we worked together with those benchmarks and we created a new vision. So we had the luxury in 2004 of adding, at that time, about 65,000 square feet. It allowed us to literally build the new, move everybody into the new half, go back and gut the old building and try to make it look and feel like what we just built. So to every way possible, that was our goal, and we had to work around. It had been a compilation of about 10 additions to the original building. I think there's 12 roof lines in there, but we were able to achieve that. So we literally had that luxury of doubling and therefore being able to really do it right and cast a new standard. Through that process, we met the Steelcase team. We actually went to Steelcase and learned about what was in the market at the time, but also what was being thought about. And probably the coolest part of that is we actually got to visit with the industrial design department at Steelcase, and we brought our industrial design department. So there's lots of other things we can probably talk about, but the backstory here is today we have 36-acre campus in the middle of nowhere, and we had to build and bring on site a lot of employee amenities that you probably can walk next door to. You don't, hopefully maybe in your business, need a coffee shop and a cafe and all that. We did. We had to have that because we are out away from the urban core. So to be competitive and to be able to grow at the rate we have, we've really needed to invest in not just a cool place to work, but a lot of the amenities that we had to bring in ourselves because they weren't in the neighborhood.
What was recruitment like before that? Did you have issues?
Oh, for sure. The back story with Trek is that we employ about 1,100 people in the state of Wisconsin. Most of those people are in Jefferson County, and most of those people increasingly are professional people. They're designers, they're product experts. So again, by definition, a lot of those people have come from the coasts or Colorado. It's like our main recruiting beds are California, Colorado, and East Coast. So it's very difficult to convince people to come to Wisconsin at all. But then also, we just sort of hint that Waterloo's just a suburb of Madison. And so all the accolades of Great Place for Madison has really helped us a lot. But yes, it was very difficult to recruit talent to come to us, and this strategy is a good word. Our investments here were very much to change that game, so we had an amazing story to tell.
Margot, anything to add?
I guess I would add, I visited Under Armour in Baltimore earlier this year to benchmark their facility, and their facilities manager there spoke of similar problems that most people from New York or LA don't want to go to Baltimore. It has kind of a bad reputation right now, and they have invested so much in their campus. It's actually incredible if any of you are out there. They're also a Steelcase partner, and one of the biggest things he said was that we definitely use this as a recruiting and retention tool. You can't visit this campus and not want to work for Under Armour. And I certainly felt that way after visiting them and have brought that concept. We're already doing that. People are so impressed when they come, but what more can we be doing?
Great, thanks. Well, let's move back to LSB for a minute. So your business is brand. You create and refresh brands. So could you talk a little bit about how important it was for the space to speak to your brand, how it does, if it does, and how you refresh it?
Well, I think if a company's been around long enough, you need to refresh your brand yourself. I mean, the Lindsay, Stone, and Briggs brand. And that's hard to do if you don't move. I mean, there was a whole bunch of reasons to move, but our creative director, Bill Winchester, was like, if we want a new day, moving is a big sign that it's a new day. So that was just really helped to re-energize the staff. I mean, to be an agency for the modern times where we're facilitating the conversations of consumers for our clients. We need to feel like, you know, we're doing that at our office. So when we moved in, it felt like it was the new LSB for the modern age, for the new things that we need to do for our clients. I mean, as you all know, everything is changing every day. And sometimes you gotta make a big change to feel that. And so I think it really, you know, helped our brand internally and externally. I mean, we had a lot of conversations of what we wanted our space to feel like, what our brand was like, and I mean, we kept bringing up, you know, like when you walk in, we want it to feel like MoMA. Like you just walk in and it's like, oh, like this just feels fresh and clean and modern and not cluttered, because what we do, you have to, you know, unclutter your mind and, you know, always, it's a new day, fresh ideas. And if your space is cluttered and cramped and not open, and I mean, I just think it inspires you to be more like that. And that's what our brand is. So I think it really, really helped all of us have a new self-image of ourselves.
And I'd say an important concept we learned from you guys, because you helped us facilitate some of these conversations, is just moving from this concept of me space to we space. You know, so when we talk about facilitating these conversations among our clients, consumers, and we wanted to do that for ourselves, it was really creating a space where there was more open, collaborative, you know, environments to do that, and as opposed to everybody being huddled away in their offices. And I mean, that had practical implications too for real estate compression. I mean, it just made it easier. Yet, you know, we reduced our space 32%. Yet 4 years later, we still feel like we've got all this room, and we never feel cramped. We always felt cramped at the old place.
Well, and a lot of good ideas come around the water cooler, right? Well, we didn't have any water cooler gathering place in our, you know, our old offices. We couldn't even eat in our own kitchen.
We wouldn't split corners.
Yeah. So you walk in now, and the first thing you see is a large cafe space. And yeah, we also can see Madison. I mean, we have floor-to-ceiling windows. We can see the Capitol. We can see Lake Monona. We can see downtown, and Madison is ours. I mean, it's right there. But you also want to walk in and feel like, you know, I don't know, everyone's constantly interacting and hanging out. And those are the times when ideas pop out. It's not when it's a forced meeting. It's not that we have meetings, believe me. But I think the magic happens when you have spaces where people can just hang out. And that's when it happens. We also have wall spaces that are magnetic and that you can write on. And we have so many processes now. We're coming up with new ones, you know, all the time. There's just a lot of stuff that's put out everywhere, and everybody can see it. You know, even if I'm not working on that client, I can see what's going on. I can hear what's going on. I can contribute, you know. So that's really great. I think also for our culture, instead of being in our own offices, I mean, we do have project teams, and we don't really sit next to project teams, but what we did was mix up different departments and different ages, so that younger people are sitting next to older people, and people in creative are sitting next to people in media, and just to really have that cross-fertilization that we really believe in. So I mean, these are all things that, you know, we're about, what our brand is about, which our spaces really help facilitate.
And just on that point, we have, I don't know if you call it 4 or 5 generational workforce, but our ages range from 20 to 73.
Oh, wow.
So, and they're all sitting mixed up. I mean, it's all ages.
Do you have any private offices in there?
No, that was
a conference room?
There's conference rooms, so there's private meeting space, but no individual has their own office. That was a conscious decision.
We have spaces that you can reserve, And then we have spaces that you can just go into that, you know, you cannot reserve. So, I mean, we understand that there needs to be privacy also, and it's, I mean, collaboration is key for us, but we also believe that sometimes you need to do heads down work. And so what we do is give people permission that you don't have to work in the office. If you need to stay home today and get something done, that's fine. I mean, that's the culture, and you know, that's how our brand is. And if you're meeting all your clients' needs, if you're meeting all your internal team's needs, I don't need to see you here every day. Now, it's important to be in, but if you, I mean, we just trust people. And if they can't handle it, then they're probably not going to, you know.
Right, that's part of your culture, right.
But, because that's really a part of our culture, is to, you know, get your job done. We're all, you know, grown-ups on the same team trying to do great work for our clients.
So given that trust, I think you find most people like to be in the office.
Really?
They do.
That's cool.
So it's, the trust is there and the accountability is there, yet people want to be back in the office, which I think speaks well to the space.
I mean, magical things happen that you're going to miss out if you're not there. I mean, when you're all in an open space, magical things happen.
Is that what
Whether you like to or not.
Stupid things happen.
I mean, it's fun. It's fun. If you like who you're working with and you feel free. I mean, I've read a lot of things where people are like, they don't have the conversations and they don't say things out loud, but we have people who say things out loud.
Maybe you shouldn't say it.
No, I mean, it's nothing bad. It's just, you know, it's just fun. If you're not having fun, what's the point?
Well,
It's hard work, and you have to have fun sometimes.
Well, on that culture theme, let's talk a little to Trek about that. One of the things they pushed us to is to think about furniture differently, and they were our first client a long, long time ago that wanted to untether the furniture. So the furniture all moved. I know that's old now, but at the time, no one did it. We didn't even know how to plan that way. And they let their employees move their furniture around however they wanted right from the get-go, which we'd never heard of, at least here before. So really, you gave your employees a lot of permission to do whatever they needed to do. And my question is that, you know, did the furniture help you with that cultural issue, or was it a culture that you already had and you wanted the furniture to follow that format? Where there was autonomy?
I think you freaked us out a little bit. So you imagine you're building low cube land, seated privacy, and we use that 120 in a number of places. And so the first thing that all of our millennials did is they didn't like having their back to anyone. So they spun all those things around. Well,
like that, right.
That's great, except it takes up 2x the amount of square feet that you've allotted to those people. And all the hallways then get crowded, and cord management's a nightmare. And so in the beginning, it was great, but it was a little bit chaotic and somewhat unexpected. I'll never forget your reaction and the Steelcase reaction the first time they came to see their new furniture installed. It didn't resemble anything.
A little messy.
Because we're not doing a case study here.
We took this before moving, yeah.
There's nobody there. But what I would say is that it was very important to go untethered. So wherever we have had that opportunity, we've gone with post and beam. We've built spaces with as few walls as possible, and that allows for reconfiguration without having to hire a third party to come in with the special wrenches and move the cubes. We wanted that flexibility, and I think it served us really, really well. When we first did a lot of these neighborhoods, they were what you would expect. The finance department, the IT department, the HR department. Now they're all cross-functional. So you go into a room and it's the mountain bike room, and there are people from all different disciplines working together in that room, and they've essentially designed their space. So untethered is really great, and when wireless caught up with it, then we didn't have the problems with the cord management and sort of being unsightly. So I'd say to the extent you can do that, absolutely give people that latitude. Something as silly as being left-handed or right-handed, you know, completely, if you give people that option, they will adapt their space and personalize it. So I think that turned out to be the absolute right answer, and it gave us just a ton of flexibility.
And when you did another project, which was the mezzanine, then can you talk about how you gave entire teams the flexibility to own space together?
You bet. I mean, one of the great learning points for me, I mean, Bud from the beginning was the advocate of open spaces and trying to not tether. So that really served us well. We thought ahead about ways to bring power and data into the spaces, either in the floor, we trenched, or we brought kind of in anticipation of the future. We have rooms where the power is all the way around the room. So I think we, from the start, wanted that flexibility, which was great. But then I think what was really the learning for me is we started allowing the teams to essentially design their own space, or as we were reclaiming former warehouse or distribution space and converting it into people space. We were putting in windows, and we were trying to replicate the look and feel. Well, we asked the teams what they needed. And we found right away that collaborative teams want to sit in a cluster in the middle, and they want all the walls for their workspace and to showcase things. So that's when we really went heavy into the post and beam, whiteboards everywhere, everything's magnetic. And we wouldn't have figured that out except for asking those teams how they essentially wanted to work. And we have so many designers in our business. They all came from studios and campuses, and that's what they very much wanted. So in effect, the end result was lower cost per square foot by allowing them to come up with it than we probably would have dreamt up on our own. So I think that combination of flexibility, but really giving the team the neighborhood and saying,
Rearrange
this
it
is
well.
your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's interesting to hear you say that, Mark, that, I mean, you're suggesting that left to your own device, you would have over-engineered it by turning it over to them. And in fact, it met their needs and probably delivered a lower cost.
No question. The best example I could give of that, and we talked about this because we were pioneers, I think, with some of the furniture systems that we were choosing. We have storage problems like everyone. We have samples of everything, and nobody wants to get rid of it, right? And so people come and visit, they think it's really cool, like it's a history exhibit, but it's not. There's just a bunch of millennials that don't get rid of anything. So we tried to adapt existing storage solutions to our needs. So we took these like file cabinets and we custom made the drawers and the inserts so you could put frames in them, thinking that people would put stuff away at night. No way, right? That's like college kids just, and so we actually spent some money unnecessarily trying to kind of make it look corporate, and we realized, you know what, if you give them a wall, they'll figure out a way to hang all their stuff so it's readily available and accessible, and what maybe appears like clutter to us is actually their work in process. So I think that we would have over-engineered it. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it feels like the Wild West at Trek, but if at the end of the day all those groups are really happy in their space and they've had a say in it, then if I don't think it's the best idea ever, or it's something that Mark or I or someone else would never have thought of, then but they're happy, I guess what more can you want? And that's what Atmosphere especially has done so much to help us with, is figuring out how to help our people with their sometimes curious requests that end up being good.
Do you put limits on them? Like, no, you can't do that because it's something that would be too big, too expensive to be undone.
We try not to ever build walls. That's one of our big rules. We try not to build walls. But the great thing about post and beam is that it ends up functioning as a wall at times, or a whiteboard, or a hanging solution. So although I'm not telling people that they can go and spend a ton of money, if we need to spend a little bit to make a space better for them, we can usually find a good way to do that. We also have a big store in our warehouse of pieces and parts, and so we can often bring those back in because we have made some changes over the years and gone with different furniture systems.
You know, real quick insight to what I've heard from these two guys. I don't know either one of you other than now. Right? We just met. But the stories you're telling, one thing that comes to mind is that you were both brave enough as organizations to ask a really simple question that's a hard answer. And the simple question is, are you going to give space to people based on who they are or what they do? That's a really hard, that's a bridge you cross that's very difficult to cross, because now you're moving away from what has been an established culture. Space maybe as an entitlement. Hey, wait a minute, I'm a brave old 21, don't I get 200 square feet? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that can come into play here that are really hard to get through. And do they apply to? The other thing you talk about is allowing the teams to figure it out. And that goes to experiential learning. There's a fair amount of research behind that that we've done a lot of work on. There are kind of these three big buckets of research is at the base of it, but it's really understanding kind of what to do. And so there's three different types of knowledge people either have or don't have. So, and it's explicit, tacit, or latent. Right? So explicit knowledge is, I'm going to ask you a question, give me an answer. Okay. Then you get to the tacit knowledge, which is, well, you know how you work, but then we observe you, and you actually don't work that way. people like to think they know how they work, and actually don't. So you do observation work, which is what design professionals are so good at, to really get at kind of those tacit knowledge things that are really important. And then the third one's, again, an overused term, a bit of the holy grail in the world of research, which is the whole notion of latent knowledge, which is you kind of don't know till you go through it, right? So your people didn't know it until they did it. And it's kind of like I was saying earlier to Vicki, I said, yeah, a really good example of that. So Phil, I've decided I want to drive a car, never driven, so just tell me how to drive a car and I got it. Or tell me how to ride a bike. Just tell me. I'm not going to do it. Until you go through the experience, it doesn't connect, right? And so to put this in the world of space, in my opinion, explicit space in our world might be a mock-up, and latent space might be a pilot. One, you've made a decision, you're getting people to vote on what they think of the decision you've already made. The other one is, we're going to build it, we're going to let people live in it and work in it, and we're going to determine whether or not it actually works or not before we write a bigger check.
I would just build that pilot concept for sure. If you want to get a sense for really creative uses of square feet, definitely come and take a tour. Because we're growing so fast, we have not kept up with enough real estate. So we have people in half the amount of square foot space that we probably would have envisioned for them even a couple of years ago, and I would say they've never been happier because they are working together on the best use of that space. Like you, we've really tried to avoid private offices. We didn't want the hierarchy, but we kind of compromised and said, well, some individuals or some groups really need that privacy, but we're going to put them at the back of the building, not up against the windows in the prime real estate. We're going to move them into the interior. And then the other requirement is that my experience in all business is the people who have the nicest offices are the people who travel the most. So what we did is we put technology in all the offices, so they are essentially conference rooms. So I'm gone a lot of us are gone. When we're not there, anyone can use those spaces for meetings, and they all have wall screens and that. So I think we've tried to multitask or use things for a different purpose. The other thing is, if you want to get a sense for what maybe some of the trends are, our employees regularly bring their own stuff in, kind of to test drive it. How many of you have stand-up desks at your offices? Okay, well, that's here to stay, right? The sitting's the new smoking, and right. So all of our employees were on the front end of that, and we have now a very high percent, I would say, that are in permanent stand-up. Don't adjust it. They just set it once, and and they're committed to that now. So I think there are definitely things that we're learning about through our partnerships, but I'd say most of the ideas come from the employees spotting something and bringing that idea in and wanting to try it out in their neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a follow-up question maybe for Margot, but for everybody, and that's, the old way of doing things is we set up standards and then we publish them and then we manage the standards, and you've all talked about it's a little more fluid than that. What are the yin and yang aspects of not having standards or having them sort of?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, the idea of having standards is a nice thing. Like, it would be very clean, like these pictures, but the truth is our employees really like feeling like their space is a home for them and doing whatever they need to make themselves feel like that's their space where they can be creative and get shit done, or stuff done, sorry. And
you don't have sole ownership.
And so it really has, when I started in this role, the question was, well, can we let people do this? And it really did come down to, why not? If it works for them and it's not expensive for us and we can make it work and they're happy, then that is the positive. It's not as clean as it could be, but people feel ownership of the space, and that's important to us.
You could say, I was part of a dialogue out west, something like this about a year ago, and one of the senior VPs of a very large company said, the challenge with standards is, this is that yin and yang, is that it allows you this governance and this management. And with a rapidly growing company, that's a really good thing. With a company that's kind of crested in their growth, it's a really bad thing. And he said, we have more mature companies than we have startups that are growing like a weed. So it's a bigger problem with the mature company that has a standard program. He goes, standards, he says, is really real estate on autopilot. And, these are real estate. I just said that.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
If you think, we have the same problem with technology, right? So half our employees are Mac, half are PC, and right. So depending on their job, everybody needs something. So we've struggled with that across all of it. But I do think that the best ideas have been where people have been allowed to experiment, or where we've brought in some samples of things. We did that early on with chairs, with other things where we let people literally test drive and get feedback. And we insisted on certain standards, particularly the kind of the visual. All the chairs are black. We tried to impose a few things to give it some sense, but overall, I think the best has come from people trying. And Margot mentioned we have a storage room with some extra stuff. Well, it's mostly the things that we tried that we gave everybody a kit, right? The first phase, we said, well, you get one of those mobile pods and you get a little, we call them refrigerators, the personal thing, right? And you get these, well, that's the stuff that ends up being excess because we bought one for everyone. And if we would have been smarter, and now I think we tend to just focus on the basics, get them settled, and then figure out what they really need for their job.
The refrigerator is a tower.
I have people come to me every week and say, we're in this design, we're in this space right now, it's very standard, just cubes in a row, and we think we could actually work better if we had a pod of 4 here and 3 here, and we have problem solvers at Trek, and so they'll actually sketch this out on a piece of paper, and then I'll say, I never would have thought of that. I don't know how your group functions, and it happens even now, even 10 years after we created this space, and that seems, although all the tables are the same color and the finishes are the same color, that's really the only standard we have anymore.
I have a question. You just reminded me that I know when you did the renovations, you did a lot of the creative groups, but then the accounting and marketing and some of the other ones that maybe weren't more standards. Did they also, if I'm remembering right, did they see kind of what was going on over there and think, boy, that's kind of nice, maybe we should try it? In a group that you would say is a non-traditional or, wouldn't go to a non-traditional setting, did that happen just kind of?
I would say it has. I think one thing we've been experimenting with is we've actually created these deliberate cross-functional groups. So instead of a finance person occasionally visiting the team they support, they sit with that team now. So there's actually a lot more sort of cross-functional collaboration that's there. But even the real traditional groups, I think, have leaned more now towards post and beam, because of all the flexibility that it affords. And I really see, again, the best decisions are thinking of things as a studio, or as a neighborhood, or as a floor of a building, because then you don't know, in 2 years, one group might be growing at twice the rate, so they move out, and we're just moving neighborhoods all the time. So I think that flexibility of very few walls and really thinking about how the group works will determine just the basics. Do you want to sit against the wall? And like in HR, people sit against the wall and there's a common middle space. But it's exactly the opposite in the design center, where they want to cluster in the middle and have the walls. Mm-hmm. Those basics were our learnings.
Great, thanks.
So we talked a little bit about collaboration. Let's go back to LSB for a minute. You talked about how your business is collaboration and it's fun. But can you talk a little bit about how it's changed since you moved? Is there a different work product? Is there a different process? And also, You were also one of our first clients that bought Mediascape, which is, if you don't know what it is, it's a table with
In the back of the room.
in the back of, thank you, Debbie, with pucks that attach 6 laptops. So by hitting the puck, you have control of the presentation versus I'm in charge of the presentation. So can you talk about collaboration and also technology and collaboration?
I think we could probably use another Mediascape. I think we could use more individual rooms. I mean, you know, we do have the open space, but we could use some more private spaces because sometimes you do have phone calls that just, you know, and 2 people are concepting and they just need to be in a room together. So, I mean, there's always, you know, more things that you want. Because most of our walls are floor to ceiling window and urban land won't let us put anything on those windows, we don't have enough wall space to do exactly what you're talking about. I mean, because we do have new processes where we're putting a lot of information out on the wall and we just don't have enough walls. And in fact, right now, our largest conference room wall is glass and looks out on the Capitol and it's full of stuff. You know, people are writing on it, they're posting things on it. But, you know, and there are some people are like, Julie, look at all that clutter. I'm like, yeah, but that's our work. I mean, clutter is our work and it needs to all go up there. And so there are new processes that we have that we need more walls. And then there have been people like, well, we could put a wall in the middle of the space. And it's like, but I don't want to do that because, you know, I want everybody to see the light and to see the views. And because we were so, you know, everybody has the same, I just don't think that would be the right way to go. So
I think maybe to answer one aspect of your question, which is about the work product.
Right.
You know, when Julie was originally talking about, you know, moving to a new place really changed our self-image, and our creative director really believed in that. I guess 2 things. One from a numbers standpoint, and the other from kind of I'll say an industry qualitative aspect. The number and the quality of awards that we've won in our industry substantially more. I think of the Clios, I think I mean, those were just, those were outward recognitions of the quality of our work.
Right.
And so, you know, awards are a big thing in the ad business. And so the number and the quality of the awards has gone up tremendously over the past 4 years. But I'd say another metric, and this gets back to my opening comment, which is about, you know, real estate as a way to make money as opposed to just save cost. In the 4 years we've been there, our revenues on average per year are up 37% over the previous 4 years.
Wow.
We've reduced space 32%, and our revenue per square foot has gone up over 100%. Wow. So, you know, if you think about real estate as being productive, you know, it's showing up in the quality of work, it's showing up on the bottom line, you know.
And that's the only difference you made. Yeah.
Well, it was the one I had hoped for and the one that, you know, kind of held out promise, but you don't really know. You kind of took a leap of faith that could be realized, and, you know, it has been. I think in those 2 metrics, and the awards and the, you know, the revenue per square foot.
I think something else that we've done that maybe doesn't have exactly to do with the space, but we use a lot of freelancers, and, you know, that's a big trend. And I mean, there's so many different things that we need to do as an agency for our clients. There's no way we can have all that expertise in the house, in the office, so we work with a lot of, I mean, we have to have a Rolodex, that's an old term, but, you know, context of, you know, people that can do all different kinds of things and bringing them in when we need them. And I think since we've moved, I mean, it might not exactly have something to do with the space, but that's been a big change. And I think that has something to do with space. I mean, think of, you know, just how you run your business, and not everybody needs to be in your office. And, you know, there's a big thing about permalance right now, too. I mean, it might not, you know, work with you in your office. We're in Madison. There's a lot of great talent in Minneapolis and Chicago and on the coast. And maybe they don't want to move here, but, you know, we certainly want to work with them. So, I mean, that's been something we've been doing more and more of.
Yeah, and technology is going to play a bigger part for us. I think as we think about the next evolution, it's how do we take advantage of sophisticated video conferencing technology?
We need that really bad.
And that's kind of the stuff we're looking at right now to really make the space feel even bigger and bigger in the sense that we're working virtually with so many different people across the country. We just need to bring them into the office in a richer way in the video office.
Yeah, we need that.
I remember your creative staff used to go to the coffee shop to work on projects, before you moved?
Mm-hmm.
And so did that stop, or do they still?
No, I think that's still part of it, but they work in the cafeteria much more often. They might work in a private space by themselves just because they want some quiet thinking time. They might work at home. They work as teams. They'll go to somebody's house.
Oh, cool.
They'll go wherever. And, I think technology's played a big part of that. The sophistication of wireless technology and just the fact that we've equipped everybody to work remotely has made that a lot easier as well.
I mean, I think if we were going to do an expansion right now, I'd think twice about it. I think there were some concepts we talked about that we weren't ready to do 4 years ago. Because we have, benching and everybody has their own space, but I don't even know if that's next time. I would say I'm not sure we need to do that because half the time people aren't at their desk. I mean, think about it. They're just not.
Oh, that was the reason we talked ourselves out of offices is that, it's a study maybe you guys put together that people aren't at their desks 70% of the time and they've got 200 square feet of space that's just sitting idle. They can be given up to the group collaboration space.
I work with a couple of consulting firms, and if you're a consultant, if you're a partner of the consulting firm, and you consult in different lines of the business, in every one of those lines you have an office.
Oh.
And they're out of space.
Yeah. So.
They're not. You're hitting on something really interesting to think about, which is this whole notion of innovation. And one of our research projects shows that people will not share what they're thinking about until they get to know the person. There's actually a 4-step process, and you can't know the person until you're face-to-face. Video is a question that we're researching right now. Can I develop trust? Because the second step is, once I know you, trust occurs. Once trust occurs, the third step is I'll share what I'm thinking about and vice versa. Now I have a safe environment to share because there's trust and I know you. And then once that idea gets shared, then we'll take a risk with it. That's the germ of the innovation kind of moment. Is take a risk with that idea that we started to kind of tease apart and maybe brought in some other people to work on. And right now, the evidence would say you have to do that face-to-face, but we're experimenting really hard as a company about this video connectivity to get to a level of trust with somebody that I may never meet just because of distance. We were saying earlier there's 194 countries in the world and Steelcase is in 156. A pretty good footprint, and there's plenty of people. I'm working on projects in China and in Singapore right now, and I know I probably will never meet those people, but I have to develop some level of trust, otherwise you can't get the work done. Right?
Exactly.
Well, go ahead.
I'm just curious, how many of you at your companies have a dedicated video conferencing room just for video conferencing? Do people have that? So we did that, and what we're finding is that nobody uses it because now everybody has a laptop and they all have a camera and they all use Skype, and so I think that very much video needs to be used, but I'm seeing a shift away from the dedicated rooms towards wherever, whenever you want to use it.
Is the use or the lack of use of the bigger room because they also can't figure out how to use it?
Ooh, that's a hot button. We have.
Some people are intimidated by technology.
That's another big thing for us, is that the room just needs to be plug and play.
Yeah.
That it's ready for it. Even if you come in with a laptop and half a dozen people can gather around it, it needs to be ready for that.
Right.
That's a good point.
Let's talk about wellness for a minute with Trek. So I can remember taking a different client through Trek not so long ago, and they said, "This just reminds me of a gym or something." And I said, well, Susan, you're in the music business and your place sounds like a music business. So that's their culture. And so you are in the wellness business. People ride their bikes to work. They bring their bikes into their offices, into their open plan, and park them right in the hallway. Can you talk a little bit about how you use the facility to reinforce your culture of wellness?
Well, I mean, I'll offer a couple. It's quite normal for someone to have a bike at their desk or in their workspace. So I think we learned early on that we had to factor that in when we thought about hallways and storage and neighborhoods, because that's just how people are operating. We also have a dedicated room that's how many square feet?
1,000.
1,000 square feet. That's just a bike storage room. Just, you know, racks and racks and racks of bikes. So I think we do have an unusual challenge in that, and you know, you can't just have one bike. There's a bike for every purpose. So a lot of people keep several at work, and that's just our culture. So I do think that's very much reinforcing it. But back to the isolation comment, we can see the Capitol too. In Waterloo, you know, we knew we had to offer fitness solutions on site, not just cycling, but also all other forms. So we have made probably a disproportionate commitment in terms of square feet to dedicated fitness center, classrooms for fit classes, that type of thing. So that is a common response when people visit, that it's very much in our DNA, but we've also committed a lot of real estate to that. If you'd add anything there.
Yeah, that's great,
Can
Mark.
you talk about how you price your food in your cafeteria? I think this is just interesting.
Yes.
Well, it's really interesting unless you like all the stuff that in the news they said yesterday we can't have anymore. So there's probably two parts to that story. The first is back to just isolation. So we made a commitment several years ago that we were going to have world-class food service on site. We tried outsourcing it. We tried a warming kitchen. We tried all that, and we finally just hired all the people and bought all the equipment, and we have a chef and a dietitian, and we just did it ourselves. But part of the magic of that is that there is a pretty significant Twinkie tax, so we do offer a lot of options, but the healthiest options are the least expensive and in effect are heavily subsidized. So we're providing it, but we're also encouraging it.
Yeah, that's great. Didn't you stop the coffee bar or something at one point? Do I remember that right?
No, we have free. We have in-house coffee as well, and it's all free, and so we can never stop that.
Never mind. I was thinking of something.
That would be bad.
That would be.
I think though, and maybe a lot of what you're hearing here is that you have to kind of embrace that what is the culture that you are in fact trying to create. And so a lot of what we're describing, you know, if you came and visited, you'd say, well, that would never work for us. Dress code, you know, environment. We were talking about privacy before. More and more I see people with the big, you know, the Beats, the big headphones, and that's their way of kind of tuning out and getting stuff done, and you know, you leave them alone. And so I mean, we're seeing trends emerge that very much fit our culture, but I think what you're describing is certainly what we've struck on as being unique, and what I think has made it very easy to attract and retain.
Well, I have a series of questions to talk about tools that you use to help change happen. But before we do that, I thought we'd just pause and talk about what do you think's next in your facility with furniture and with what you're going to do. You know, what would you see as something that would work even better? Julie started to touch on that, and Rick's got some ideas of what Steelcase is working on. So anybody want to offer up what your vision would be of what you'd like or what you see coming?
Sure. So we are really at capacity with our current space and are really looking at the future right now, and as part of that have created a bit of a wish list of, all right, if we had more space, what would we put in it? And some of the pieces that I have kind of fought for are this idea of more small private meeting spaces that are either reservable or non-reservable, but maybe they're a heads down space where one person just go and get something done, or maybe it's a couple people meeting. But the open collaborative environment is great, but we recognize now that there are times where people just need to go and get something done. I like this idea. I don't know how familiar you all are with this idea of the third place. Howard Schultz talks about Starbucks wanting to be that place between work and home. And so I kind of steal that idea, even though I know we are work, but can we create some zones in our building that are a more casual place? I think college campuses do that really well, where you touch down for a little bit, you meet, or maybe you run into someone, or maybe there just happens to be a screen right there, but it's not as formal as a meeting space. So those are.
Like a NAT space.
I was going to ask that.
No, we
My
don't.
daughter works at High Tech in San Francisco, and they have that. But a lot of people don't use it just because they feel a little self-conscious about
I think the
taking it.
CEO would have to take a nap. And everybody
Yeah,
would be
that's
like,
probably a
"I
good
guess
point."
I'll take a nap.
I would probably use it. I have napped in my car at times, Mark, but just so I can get more stuff done in the day. So those are the biggest things, I think. How do we create more collaborative space, private space, and think about things differently than we have in the past?
You mentioned the third space. Have you had employee requests that have voiced the need without having the label on it?
Yeah, I would say mostly it's this. We have an atrium right now with a couple big meeting tables, and they get used all the time. And we have a cafe. It's lovely. It's great and has great food, but isn't the warmest environment. When you think of it, it's not exactly like a Starbucks. So creating that kind of space, and the fact that all of these employees are trying to carve out little meeting spaces in their space because there's not another space for that to happen. We also find we have this big atrium in the middle of the building, and there's kind of a joke that people don't want to cross it all the time. So what can we do to make sure that finance and IT, who are on one side, are crossing the atrium to meet with creative and marketing and all the other functions that are on the other side of the building? Yeah.
How about you, Mark? What would you see as the future?
I would see indoor, outdoor. All the coolest companies we've gone and visited, Nike, Oakley, Under Armour, I mean, all these iconic brands, it's very much about using the outdoors. And so we have this work hard, play hard culture, and people every day are outdoors at some point, but that's not to work, it's to go ride their bikes or go to the mountain bike trails. And so I think we need, in our future designs, ways that we can, just as simple, our cafe is right in the middle of the building, which is very efficient, but wouldn't it be cool if it was along an outside wall and we could open the garage doors and
That's a good
Cafe
idea.
Hollander. I mean, that's we don't do enough of that. And frankly, just the ability to open the windows. We have facilities in 29 countries, and everywhere except the United States, there's no like closed circuit HVAC. Right? If you're hot, you open the window, and if you're cold, you close it. And I think that's unfortunate. We seems like in the U.S. we've gone a little too far towards interior only. So I'd like to see those trends. And I mentioned stand-up. A very high percentage of people are already committed to stand-up desks. I think that's definitely here to stay.
I would agree. We need more stand-up desks. It's, people are kind of fighting over them, and I know that you guys have the desks where you can actually be on the treadmill.
Yeah.
So I think having more things like that would be really great. I mean, we mentioned more private space. I mean, it seems like, it's all open, and and that is all so important, but people do need a little room to go to once in a while. So, and I mean, if I really wanted to, be brave and do something new, I don't know if I would have everything be benches. We have a open studio that's all benches, and I wish it could be a little more free-form. Like I hear your spaces, I'm like, I'm kind of yearning for that.
Well, I think some of the discussion with staff, to the extent that they've voiced it, has been, can we move some things around? Because I think after a while, people want to see change. They want to change it up, and it's a little hard when you have the fixed benching, and power's all cored up through the floor.
It's all through the existing furniture, so to make, we can't just move around. It's not an easy thing to do. Right. So I think I'd want to go to more like what you guys are doing. But I think you also have to have a little more space to be able to do that, maybe, which you guys are in Waterloo where it's cheap. Yeah, I think. I heard you say that. So I think there's a big advantage to that, right? You can have a place where everybody can put their bikes. I mean, a lot of people ride their bikes at LSB. In fact, we have somebody that owned a lot of bikes and had to get a special locker. And in our old space, people were able to put them in. We had more space, so there were bikes in the hallways. But we don't have the space for that. So we do have to have some protocols because we just don't have the room. So a little more freedom for some of that. But we did get a ping pong table recently.
The obligatory ping pong table.
How about you, Phil? What would the future look like?
Well, I think some of the things Julie said, I think accommodating a little more flexibility to the space would be nice. So, go back and think about it. That would be, if we could do that, it'd be nice. I think incorporating more technology, not necessarily have kind of a big monolithic video room, that would be a white elephant, but I think having some more flexible video technology so people can just pop up and meet and have multiple cameras, and so people can feel like they're meeting as a group as opposed to one on a single laptop screen. And then, things Julie's talked about already is we just, we need more display space. So I think just maxing out the existing wall space that we have, so more can go up and become more visible.
And Rick, if you are talking for Steelcase, which you are, could you tell us what you think will be
I'm
next?
going to talk for myself.
Well, all right then.
It'll probably relate somehow. So, the number one need set of the boomers, who are still calling most of the shots, was security, and a subset of that then was entitlement. That was why the standards kind of developed like, military or pyramid. Big guy or gal got the big office. And I think the number one need set of this next generation, Gen Y and Gen Z, who's right behind it, I think I said this earlier, they'll make up about 5% of the workforce, maybe 6% of the workforce in 5 years. And we're not even studying them yet. 1996 birthday and after. So better start studying them because they're different than Y, not significantly. Their number one need set's choice and control. They may not get it because the boomers are still calling the shots. So this is part of the recruitment challenge of somebody that might be cube heavy. Hey, congratulations, we want to hire you, and we're in a great city, and there's where you're going to sit. And they go, that's not going to happen. So, or they don't stay long, right? That's the 2-year and under kind of phenomenon with that age group. They're in for the experience, and then some if you can engage, right? I think the office of the future, and I don't think it'll happen in my work lifetime, but we're starting to see it. How many of you know what our work cafe is all about, what our work cafe looks like? I know some of you have seen it. You can look at it, go to steelcase.com and drill into it. I think the office of the future for some companies will be manifested that way, where you'll just show up, come to work, and show up and work the way you need to that day. And if you need to be in the project room, you'll be in the project room. If you need to be at the bench, you'll be at the bench. If you need to be with a place with a door, you'll be with a place with a door. And you'll move in a nomadic way that allows you to work in this kind of fluid way. And I think that if your space can manifest itself that way, that is the third place. That becomes literally the greatest manifestation of it. It won't be for every company. Some companies will never get there, but I think some companies will, and I think that'll be a pretty exciting thing to look at. One more thing about innovation and project work. Real quick story. We did a research project about collaboration. There's 3 different types of collaboration, the informative, generative, and evaluative. Generative is really kind of the magic place where you actually get into a room and you generate stuff, right? New stuff happens. Excuse me. Those teams need to own the room. I think that's one of the challenges a lot of companies have is they've got these collaborative spaces, but sometimes the hottest stuff you're working on, they need, because the stuff has to stay up.
Yep. Well, that's what's happening with us right now. It needs to stay up. And there's a lot of groups who need stuff to stay up, and that's why we need more wall space. It's a thing. And they're like, I'll own wherever I can, so get out of my way.
So we wanted to, once we did the research on the different types, we wanted to do a research project to prove it and see if we get some insights or some real facts out of it. We did a research project, we're not going to publish, but I'll tell you the story. It was with a large university, and we took 4 marketing classes or courses that had a prescribed 10-week curriculum. Half of the time was in class, or not half, sometimes in class, and then another part of your work had to be in a laboratory. It was a marketing course. So they had to schedule that with their teammates to do their work, right? But the laboratories, you might expect you go in, and at a certain time you got booted out. So the wrinkle is we took one of those 4 core classes and we gave them their own dedicated project room. Let's see what happens. 2 significant findings. Number 1, the outcome of all 4 classes was identical. So no change whatsoever in outcome. And when we went back and said why, it was because it was a prescribed course. There was an end. There was a result that was looked for, even though there's variation by course, by each course. or group, but by and large, it was you get an A or you don't, right? But on the output, the one group that had the dedicated project room was done with the 10-week course in 5 weeks.
Wow.
A pretty good productivity increase. So I know that that can correlate or relate back to the business world. So I'm just saying organizations that have or do project work have to decide the critical nature or the importance of that project work so that you make hard decisions about that group working on that new whatever needs to own that space for a period of time, whatever length of time it is, so their stuff can stay up and stay fluid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We've got about 5 more minutes. I want to allow any questions from the team if you have any, or yes, go right ahead.
So first of all, you guys, thanks for being here, doing this. You guys are all obviously busy. Companies are growing. That's a great thing. But to actually stop and kind of reflect on this stuff, I think is important. It's important for me to hear. I think it's important for a lot of these folks to hear too, because we work with a lot of clients. I work with a lot of clients that actually don't question who and what in those typical roles. You guys have clearly done that. It was really interesting to hear the discussion about what's next, right? What I'm really most focused on with you guys as I sit here and listen to you is I start to understand how you got to who and what, right? And why you questioned those things. But having that space that you guys both have, large facilities, multiple amenities, not necessarily dedicated to work, you guys have those amenities that are outside your space, right?
Yeah.
So kind of a trade-off in the real estate transaction.
Yeah, right.
So at the end of the day, there might be some equality there, right?
Yeah.
But who and what is, from my perspective, is important to question, and particularly as it starts to relate to your culture. You guys talked about that. And what I always try and get is, how is your culture really, how do you get to what your culture is? And I'm always kind of thinking about what's the cause, right? What's Trek's cause? I mean, what gets Trek out of bed every morning, right? What gets you guys out of bed? I've been to your space, I haven't been to your space. And so I kind of wonder that, and I wonder not what they are. I think those are really important questions. But I wonder, did that influence the work that you guys did as a group? Because what you guys have done, it takes big teams, right? But that's the question. Did who you guys are, what's the cause, what's your why affect that process? That's the question.
Well, I think it greatly facilitates it. I don't know if it's in and of itself, it's an outward manifestation of our Simon Sinek why, but it allows us to do that. I mean, our passion is for brands and making brands matter, and we love what we do. We love the creative process, and we needed an environment that recognize how the creative process works. And so, I mean, when you talk about the research you guys just did and the fact that this 10-week course got done in 5 weeks, anecdotally that feels viscerally real. I mean, it's just, there is something about the intensity and the heat of the creative process, where it comes together, generates white hot, it kind of backs off a little bit, gets a chance to breathe, and people come back at it. And we needed space that allowed us to do that. The old space didn't do that. Is this space perfect? No, I think we realized there's still some pieces missing, but again, if I come back and I look at the quality of work as it's recognized of the marketplace, right, by third parties who judge it and by clients who pay us, both measures are up. So it feels like it's working, it's reinforcing the culture that we wanted to get more toward and embed more deeply in the work product. And so, it's a process of continual discovery. But I think there's enough there, we've kind of felt like there's some traction, and I think it's made us more open to just continually question and explore new ways of doing things. And and not just accept that, well, we're here and it's better than what it was, so we can coast. Because talent won't let us do it. And I mean, we talked, right, and it is a war for talent, especially in our businesses. It is any creative knowledge business is a war for talent. And so we all have to create environments and cultures that are going to attract and retain the right kinds of people. And some are just going to be fleeting and passing through, but while they're there, we want to make them as productive for us as we can. And so, you know, I think that's never going to do that, because we can never get enough good people that fit with the stew we've kind of been cooking, right?
I almost feel like what we have now is just like the beginning. Like, I think the kind of talent that we want in our culture, I mean, if we didn't have if we had the old space, we wouldn't be getting the talent that we need now. And like Phil said, I think we have to think about what is next when we can. Because I think people expect a lot more with space than they used to. I think people would start jobs and it's like, well, that's what it is. It's not like that anymore. It's just not. People's space and environments are so important to them. I mean, just think of Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook, and everybody is out there going, look at me, look at my space, look at what I'm doing, look at what I've created. And they're bringing that to work. I mean, it's in the culture, and we have to be a part of it.
That's well said.
And behavior over time equals culture. Everybody in this room needs to be comfortable asking the question, do they believe that space impacts behavior? The answer is it does. It's not the challenge companies sometimes have when they use space in this stew, is that it becomes the strategy and it's not the strategy. It's a tool in your toolbox of which, you know, you have a broader strategy of which that's one of the pieces. And I think one of the mistakes I see companies make is they use space as being this incredible change management driver, and you go, no, it'll help. Especially if you do it right, if you have your homework and you have the users involved. Biggest mistake. I'll say this, I didn't say it earlier. The single biggest mistake I see repeated over and over and over again is of companies that are changing as they drive for a space change of some type, and they don't involve the users at all. And so moving becomes a jack-in-the-box moment. Where did this come from? I didn't sign up for this. What were we thinking? Rather than have them have day one be celebration, I was involved in this, you know, and I had a voice.
Stakeholder.
Yeah, they're invested.
It sounds like you guys have done that.
Right. Well, for sure. You know, so I would just chime in maybe a couple things that'll get to your question. We're all about the why, right? We're an employment brand. We're a brand, and we understand the power of that. So everything we're doing these days is telling that story, so it will resonate with consumers, but also with people that would at least come and look in Waterloo, Wisconsin. If we can convince people to get on a plane and visit us, they stay at the Laurentian Hill Inn, they come out to Waterloo. We'll land people if we can get them to agree to come see, right? There's some that don't get that far, but I think we've come a long way. So it's very much, for us, it's about that why. To the point where I think people that come and visit get it. We don't have to point things out. They sort of get a sense. But here's something I would suggest to everybody. Two are tools. So Great Place to Work. Do you at your companies do the Great Place to Work survey? Do any of you guys do that? You know, the top 100, okay. So even if you have no intention of pursuing that for your company or for your brand, look at the list of questions. They're online. You can look at Fortune Magazine or Great Place to Work. So many of the questions are about the space that you're a part of. So if you don't think there's a correlation, all the data suggests the companies who win that are outperforming their peers by many multiples. So pay attention to those questions because they're very much about the space. Another tool is Pinterest. So Margot created a Pinterest board, private Pinterest board. Yeah. So when our people are out benchmarking and visiting companies all over the place, they come back with cool ideas that they think would work in our culture. And they're posting those increasingly to this. So we're very well informed. When we have new space in the future, we already have a really good idea of what's working, but also what we could bring in from outside. And it's authentic to our culture because the ideas are coming from our own people. The last thing I would say about that why and maybe the authenticity, something that hit me after we did our first big project in 2004, we got done and it was gorgeous, right? It was all these pictures before we moved in. So it was a really gorgeous space, okay? And I'll never forget, a designer came up to me and he's like, this is the most amazing transformation, this is just the coolest thing ever, but where's the airplane wing? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, well, you know, I'm a designer and I feel like instead of a conference table, there should be an airplane wing. And I thought, well, he's right. We spent a lot of money on the conference table, but it wasn't as authentic probably to the designers, right, as if we would have said, well, give them more input. And from that day forward, every move we made after that, we went overboard to get more input to make sure we had that kind of authenticity. So it's still Steelcase, 90%. But the other 10%, right, it's the why, very much to the heart of your question. Sorry, that was a long answer.
That's a great answer. Margot, anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
All right. I want to be on time and on budget. And thank all of you for being here, and particularly to thank our great clients for sharing with us. We're fortunate to have you. We're fortunate to be working right alongside you as you push the envelope. It's a delight and an honor, and we thank you for that as well as your time today.
Thank you for what you've done for us.
Yeah.
So.